Hey everybody, this is Doc Mack with the Galloping Ghost Arcade podcast. It's Monday, September 24th, and we're here tonight with our pinball guys, Ken Walker and Greg Golminas. These two guys have been non-stop helping us keep our pinball machines up and running. First, let's get a little bit of their backstory and how they got involved with us. First, we met with Ken Walker back in the day. I'll throw it to you, Ken. You can tell us a little bit about how we met up.
Yeah, well, for all the Brookfield people, probably are familiar with Paisan's Pizza. I believe it was a Saturday night, and I was just heading to Paisan's, getting the family a pizza, and I drove by what used to be Chris's Green Pocket Billiard Hall, and I noticed the lights were on. And I also noticed some kind of monolithic-looking structures in from the street, and so I decided to stop. And that's when I met Doc, and I saw the video games. I thought it was going to be an operator moving in, and ended up being a crazy guy who thought, hey, let's build an arcade. And that really there's more to it, I guess, but that was pretty much.
That was you had asked us if we were having pinball, I remember.
Right, and
And
he said,
also-
well, probably not, because I don't know how to fix it. And I said, don't worry about that. And I threw out my pinball repair card, and I said, just I'll take care of whatever.
And we had also discussed, we had picked up our punch-out machine from you.
Right.
Still a
sold
favorite
punch-out
of many.
guys. And I guess the other thing, it probably gave me some credibility. That Tiffany tells the story better, but you guys had the Sea Devil, which was
Yes.
an old 1970s. Is it still the oldest game you have here?
Yep.
And you didn't know how it worked. And,
Yeah, I had not worked on one
relays
myself.
and switches and motors and lights, and so I said I'll take a crack at that. Got that going too. So
Yes.
all kinds of fun projects throughout the years, months.
Yes. It's
That's about it.
and Greg?
Yeah, I got involved actually through Ken. I've known Ken through the Chicago pinball community, and he called me up one day and said, hey, you want to shop out at Borgar with me at an arcade? And I said, number one, there's an arcade, and number two, an arcade that has Borgar? I'll be there. And actually that was before the Galloping Ghost was even open. I think there was probably 2 weeks before you guys opened. We were in the back room. It was nice and hot, nice hot summer night, and Ken and I got the Borgar up and running, and I think that's what started it all. It was initially one game, and
Yeah, we had originally just had Funhouse, and that was my personal favorite pinball machine, and that was really the only pin that I definitely wanted to have here. Like I played it back in the day a ton, me and my brother, and Rudy was just something we just had to have here at the arcade.
Spent about 5 hours on a Saturday afternoon, again in the hot summer before you guys were open, or just at the time when you guys were open. I don't remember if you guys were officially open but it was close. And shot that thing out, replaced a couple of switches, and got it running. And then the others started arriving here and there.
Yeah, it's been right now we do have 8 pinball machines here. Most recently added was our Space Invaders. How did you guys get into pinball, and like what are some of your favorites that you've played over the years?
Wow, there's a story. You want me to go first?
yeah, Ken has a good story.
All right, about 10 feet from where we're sitting, when this building was the Chris's Green Pocket, it was a pool hall. A little bit longer story, but short story is that there was a Twilight Zone pinball here. My son and I enjoyed playing pinball together, and we discovered it. It's just a block and a half from my house, and every Thursday, I worked weekends, so every Thursday he and I would come over here and take about $5 and pump it into a Twilight Zone. And so he has autism. He enjoys playing pinball, and mostly he enjoys just watching the ball roll around. So he was in charge of putting the money in and plunging the ball. and he enjoyed watching me flip the pinball around. Twilight Zone is a very deep game, and I came to really enjoy playing it, and searched out the rule sheet from Bowen Kearns and Kevin Martin, and realized how deep Twilight Zone is, and so I got hooked pretty big time. You know, as a kid of the '80s, after Star Wars came out, you know, I was just like totally blown away. Everything that I ever daydreamed about, I could now see on the big screen. And I was probably 10 or so when that movie came out. And then a short couple of years later, video games came out. So I was totally hooked on video games. I remember going as a small kid to the video arcade, and I never really gave pinball a whole lot of thought. To me, it was just batting the ball around and getting points. And once discovering Twilight Zone, I realized the depth of it and the storyline and, you know, all the different things. I remember collecting 18 Hitchhikers once, and it was the coolest countdown I'd ever heard. And I thought, you know, wow, how did I do that? And then once I discovered the rules and, you know, understood what there was to do with all the 14 door panels, you know, that was it. And then I just got bit hard by the bug. That was in 2004.
Yeah.
2005, I joined the Chicago Pinball League, and, you know, I've been with them ever since, going to all the pinball shows and hitting every bowling alley and movie theater that I could find around Chicago back in 2004, 2005, hitting pinball shows. I took Andrew with me. We went up to Kalamazoo, went to Milwaukee, went to Expo, just hit everything I could. My background's in aviation, so transferring the electrical troubleshooting and the mechanical ability that I have with being an aircraft mechanic translated pretty well with doing pinball, so I got into pinball repair pretty early as well. That's the long and short of it.
Well, my story, I got into it fairly recently, in the mid-2000s, maybe 2004, spoken around on the internet, and I found a program called PinMain, and it happens to emulate a lot of the arcade professional pinball machines. Mine was all like freeware. You can download, you know, pretty much any machine that you wanted, and I didn't really know any specific machines at that time. I would kind of go through the site and look for some play fields that I thought were kind of neat, or maybe a movie or something, or a theme that I thought was kind of neat. I would download it and play it, and as Ken said, once you kind of get through the just flipping the ball around and hitting stuff, once you learn that there's actually rules and themes and certain things happen when you shoot so many shots, or how you lock balls and how you can get multi-balls. Once I started to learn that, then I was hooked. And right away I bought a brand new in-the-box Stern Lord of the Rings. And that's a great game. You know, at that time the movie was out. I had a Lord of the Rings, and I had a Pirates of the Caribbean, which I actually bought from the designer Dennis Nordman. Then I had a few other games, and currently I have a Transformers LE.
How you liking that one?
Transformer LE is a great game, great sound effects, great DMD graphics, and yeah, it's just an overall great game, great package.
Very cool. Ken, what machines do you have at your house, Ken?
All the machines in my house are currently broken. They're in project status. I do have a 1933 flipperless Depression era gambling machine called Blackstone. Restored that. That actually is a lot of fun. It takes pennies and the kids play it, and it's pretty popular at birthday parties. But my folks have machines at their place, and then we get together there, and they've got a Fishtails, OXO, Grand Prix, Star Pool, Gottlieb Soccer, Valley Champ, and one other game called Hang Glider, which is in project status. So it's I do like the electromechanicals, mostly because I'm pretty much pinball poor and can only afford the electromechanicals. But my one recollection of pinball before the video game craze hit, I do remember going to bowling alleys and hearing the bells and the chimes of pinball machines at the bowling alley. And there was also a grocery store where I grew up in Berwyn that had a pinball machine there. So I do remember seeing it, I do remember playing it, but I was no good at it, and I didn't play it a lot. So I do have a fondness for some of those machines. In modern day electronics, it's kind of easy to take things for granted, especially with the release of the iPhone 5. You just see what these pieces of technology can do, and it's pretty amazing. But 30, 40 years ago, they didn't have that, and even before then, in the 1950s, they had these electromechanical devices that would calculate the scores and the points, and it's pretty neat to be able to follow the logic on a game like that and see that something mechanical, no computer chips or any solid state components at all, and they still made a ton of money back in the 50s, 60s, and 70s.
Yeah. Well, and you had mentioned about like the depth of the games, like Twilight Zone being it's a lot deeper game and a little more complex. Like with the games that we have here at the arcade, obviously having such a huge lineup of video arcade machines, for a lot of people coming here, they haven't had the same experience with pinball machines, and especially as of late, like it's even harder to find pinball than video machines. What would you recommend that they play first, just as far as ease of getting into pinball, like from our machines that we have?
The machines that you have here, Gorgar is about as basic as you can get. Gorgar and Flash
Yeah,
are basic.
Flash and Gorg are pretty basic, pretty simple rules.
But if you don't understand the subtleties, you may find it somewhat boring until you understand what you're doing with it. Twilight Zone is pretty exciting because there is a lot of stuff to do, but it's also confusing as well. So my answer would have to be Pinbot, because it's a basic 2-flipper, 3-pop bumper layout. It's got the upper play field, it's got the 2-ball locks, which are the robot's eyes that you shoot the ball into. It's got drop targets. I mean, it pretty much is I don't know what you consider in a pinball machine. Millionaire's not a bad game either. It's not too popular among the pinball community, but it's still a fun game. Not real deep, but it's a good way to get people into it. I would think that somebody walking up to the games in the lineup that you have, I would think that Millionaire would probably be one of the ones that they're drawn to.
Yeah, Millionaire and
Black Knight's a fun one too.
Yeah, like Ken said, good transition game would probably be Pinbot, because it is a relatively simple layout, relatively easy to understand. However, it does have some rules, more advanced rules, and some of them are kind of written out on the scoreboard, where you can kind of read what it's telling you to do, and kind of shows you your bonuses, and you can kind of see the things on, or the lights on the play field light up and kind of tell you, what shots to shoot for. But that would probably be a good starting point. And definitely probably Funhouse and Twilight Zone are probably the most advanced as far as rules.
Yeah, Funhouse would be my, I would also say that's another one that people just walk up to the machine and they're like, what's with this Rudy head on the play field? I have a buddy, he's been over a couple times. That's the one that he always gravitates toward. And of the 8 machines we have, the 2 that I have to clean the most often are Twilight Zone and Funhouse. Those are the ones that get the most use.
For sure. There's definitely, every time when we have pinball open, those are usually the first 2 that people go towards. For the adventurous that want to delve into Twilight Zone, can you give them any beginners pointers that you would, any hints or what they should be looking for or shooting for?
Yeah,
Ken is definitely more versed on the Twilight Zone and the rules than I am.
What makes, I guess the one thing to keep in mind is that Twilight Zone has 6 flippers. It has the 2 at the bottom, but it also has 2 mid flippers, which you gotta kind of remember that they're up there. There's an upper left and an upper right flipper, and those kind of make the game a little bit even more in depth. But then there's also the Magna flippers, which are on the mini play field, and those are kind of fun. They're a magnetic pulse, and it affects the ball a whole lot differently, and it bounces up and down. And the idea is to get it in the upper hole before you run out of time, and it drains down the lower hole. getting it through the upper hole also gives you an extra door panel. And the idea is to collect all 14 door panels to get to the wizard mode. So for beginners, don't forget about the two upper flippers, the upper left and the upper right. That changes the number of shots that you may appear to have. It might be apparent to have 5 shots, but there's really 8 if you're considering those two flippers as well.
Cool.
And you may want to explain what the Powerball
Oh
is.
yeah, the other thing, the other random element in that game is that it has a ceramic ball which is not affected by the magnets. There are 4 magnets in that game, and Powerball is not affected by the magnets, and it also plays really fast. The ball just plays differently than the steel ones.
Cool. And obviously, like you said, you notice that you have to clean Twilight Zone and Funhouse the most often. Pinball, definitely heavy on the repair end. Normally when we get a new pinball machine, like Ken and Greg are in here, usually same day we get the machine, they're excited to find out what we've got. And the machines we've got, overall, condition-wise, huge headaches, or what would you say from start to finish on a lot of them?
Well,
In general.
So here's how it kind of goes. Doc gets in a game, and it's usually in pieces. The head is usually off, and the legs obviously are off. And I think he had Twilight Zone, Millionaire, with the boards actually out of the game. And basically we had to reassemble the game, re-plug in all the wiring harnesses, put everything back together. So they're definitely not plug and play when Doc gets his games. So we do go through the games. We plug them or put them all in, and the first thing you always want to check: fuses.
Yeah, fuses. People blow fuses on the games, and they like to put overpowered fuses, and then that melts other things. So every one that we've had in here has had some issue, but nothing that hasn't been, either getting new boards at the far extreme, or just replacement of common items like a broken switch and adjustments, new rubbers. That's a lot of these games, they'll get a lot of use, and then the rubbers won't get replaced, and the balls might have a little not as much shine on them, and in some cases they're pretty beat up. Anything that's not polished and shined up will contribute to the wear in the play field and the other components and stuff. But for the most part, they're fun games. I enjoy playing them, and I don't get tired of them.
What are fixing so many cabinets as we have here, I've seen some absolutely crazy things done to boards and just some ridiculous hack jobs. And there was a Neo Geo game that we opened it up once. It wasn't running, and somebody had left a cookie inside on the PCB board. Took that out, and the game worked.
Wow, nice.
Yeah. What's some of the oddest things that you've seen done repairing pinball machines?
The worst one for me was a Bally Star Trek that a buddy of mine bought as a package deal, and it was sort of one of these machines where normally people like this game, and sometimes they're expensive to get, but for the most part, in this case, it was sort of like, well, if you want these games, you have to take this with it. Some of the worst things that I've seen are where the real tragedy comes in is that the work that they did to hack the boards was far greater than effort, and in some cases expense, than what was required to fix it properly.
Uh-huh.
So in the case of this board, they had a burnout of one of the plugs. Rather than replace the pins, replace the pieces, which would have, by today's dollars, maybe been $5 and an hour's worth of work. they pulled everything off, and then they soldered wires directly to the board, put it in a 36 pin connector, which that alone would have been about $5, and then with the pins would have probably run it up to about 10. They matched colors. They used all red wires, and then they had to match up. Yeah, it was like 30. It was like 36 of them. So they had red wires on one side and the color coding on the other side. And then
sometimes multicolored wired is hard to come by.
Well, and I have no problem with that, but in this case, they didn't need to add that whole section. They could have just chopped the wires and then added a new connector, and they would have had plenty of slack. So the worst part was is that because they hacked this thing the way it was, they also rendered it. Older games, the heads are supposed to come off.
Yeah.
So there's plugs, there's interconnects, and the heads come off, they unbolt, you carry them away, they're maybe 20, 30 pounds, it's no big deal. Well, they had rigged this wiring in such a way to where now they couldn't take the thing apart, and they had lost the key to the head. So not only did they bust the cabinet open to get inside it, and what it did was it tore apart the main carcass, but then they realized they couldn't disconnect any of the wires, and so they just chopped the whole harness. So that was by far the worst. Now, the playfield and the back glass and the cabinet were actually in pretty decent shape, so it was worth it to us. But again, it was one of these things that's like sat in my basement for 2 years before I finally just said, okay, fine, I've got to make a piece of plywood, I've got to match the paint, I've got to put this thing back together, and then worst of all, I've got to, take this central nervous system, main spinal cord, and put it back together.
Yeah.
And so that was crazy. Undo all the hacks, make it so that you could take the head off again, put it back on, put new all hardware on. And so, labor of love for a buddy's dad, and it was a good experience for me. I learned how to do a lot of crimping. I got really good at crimping, and so put it all back together, and things still running.
Yeah, I haven't had too many experiences with too many hacks. The games that you have here all came in relatively hack-free, but I did come across one game I was working on with a buddy. It was a Bobby Orr pinball.
It's those valleys, man.
Yeah, and must have been in a bar at some point in his life, and on most pinballs, or most modern pinballs, there's electric socket on the inside of the game for accessories or for repair tools or whatever that you can plug right in. Well, they actually used a Glade plug-in, was plugged in there, so there was an air freshener inside the game that was trying to get rid of, I guess, the smoke smell from the bar or wherever it was at. So I thought that was one of the craziest things that I've ever seen.
Huh. There's we fortunately didn't have any Glade plugins in any of our machines.
Yeah, just some battery damage and some other stuff. These things have batteries. You got to change the batteries.
Yeah, that's one key. If there's anyone out there listening that gets a game, most of the modern games, I would say at least right around 77 and newer, have some sort of battery in it. You need to take, if there is no battery damage, you need to replace them every year or so. But if you get a game, pull those batteries out of there and put fresh ones in, and that's most of the fixes here at the Ghost were due to battery damage.
Yeah.
This game, people didn't realize they had batteries in the game and never changed them, and they leaked, the original batteries from 1979 or whatnot. So that's definitely one of the main causes. They do make batteries that are actually off the board now, where you get a little adapter where you can put the batteries off the board, and that's generally a good idea to do.
Cool. Especially, and there are so many people that look for pinball machines for their house, just for private use. Where are some good places for people to look for pinball machines?
I found a lot of them. Well, you can look on Craigslist. However, usually when those are posted, they're usually gone right away.
Well, and there's the flip side in Chicago anyway. they're either the worst games in the world that nobody wants, um, or they're the home versions, which if they work, are maybe worth $200. People try to, you know, the worst one's Fireball. Electromechanical Fireball from 1972 can regularly bring in about $3,000, $3,500. It's kind of the holy grail of the 70s pinball scene. That's the one everybody kind of wants. Well, they made a home version of that. They also made a later version of it, I believe, in '85. So you have to know which machine you're dealing with. If somebody is trying to sell a Fireball, they go on eBay and they say, "Oh, well, this one sold for $3,500. Mine must be worth that." But no, you have the Sears Roebuck and Company 1978 version that they made who knows how many of, and when they break, they're done. You can't get parts for them anymore. The boards are proprietary. So there's some, you know, misinformation that happens every
Yeah, you
now
can go
and then.
Craigslist, eBay. eBay is generally overpriced.
Mr. Pinball. is
Mr.
another
Pinball,
choice.
you can Google Mr. Pinball, and the two main pinball forums are RGP, that stands for Rec Game Pinball, that's like a news group,
It's a Google group.
and Pinside. And generally, there's people on there selling games, and you definitely should shop around for prices. Again, on eBay, they're generally overpriced, and just, you know, you never know what you're getting on eBay, you know, unless you physically see and play the machine.
But before that, if you're interested in getting one for your home, I would recommend hitting the shows.
Yeah.
Because that way, the best way to see if you like a machine or not is to play it, in my opinion. You can read the reviews, but until you play it, you know, there's games that I love that everybody hates. There's games that everybody hates that, you know, or that I hate that everybody loves. So, go to the shows. There's shows all over the country.
What about newer games like AC/DC and X-Men and Transformers and?
There is a app for the iPhone. I don't have it handy, but there's a pinball locator. There are pinball locators online. There's a guy in Texas. You know, Google is your friend, as they say. There are pinball locators all over the country, so you can't, or you know, all by state, by region, there are places to find those to play. And word of
But
mouth.
to buy them for your home?
Buy one.
Well, yeah, your newer games, like Doc said, those are the newest Stern games. Stern is the only manufacturer of real pinball machines, as they say. And you can, generally, you can go on Stern's website, and they have distributors available. You can't buy them direct from a store. You have to go through a distributor to get a newer game. And kind of going back to what Ken was saying before the show, is just a little hype if you're in the Chicagoland area. I believe it's the weekend of October 20th, the Chicago Pinball Expo, which is yes, it's one of the larger pinball shows in the country, and definitely if you're looking for a game or you just want to play all kinds of pinball, I believe they're open, Friday, pretty much all day, 24 hours. And
All day Saturday till about 5.
yeah, for like $20. So that's a real good place to try out a lot of these the newer machines. If you do want to play an X-Men and not buy an X-Men, you can always check out Brixies, which is just down the street here from the Galloping Ghost. They have, at this moment, they have an X-Men, a Medieval Madness, and a high-speed Getaway 2.
Yep. Yeah, I was actually just over there the other night and was checking out their pins. So.
Did you go on Monday for free bacon?
No, I did not. Unfortunately. And you guys had mentioned that you're both in pinball leagues. Do you want to tell us a little bit about your leagues that you're in?
Boy, who wants to start on that one?
Oh, I'll start.
Greg, let's go. Yeah, Greg.
There's two main pinball leagues in Chicago. I'm in the Chicago Pinball Mafia. We have roughly 26 people, I believe, in our league, with a wait list of at least 10 people to get in. We're maxed out right now with 26 people. We play, I believe it's 8 months, once a month, and then we have a finals night. And basically, we go to people's houses that have these bigger collections, and we play. It's competitive, but there's no money involved or anything like that. It's competitive, and it's just for, you know, braggers' rights. And I just like to note that the last 2 tournaments that the Galloping Ghost had, 2 Chicago Pinball Mafia members won. I just had to throw that in there, Ken.
In the expert division, yeah.
Yes, in the expert division.
That's probably because I was the only guy from my league that showed up, and I suck at pinball. I'd just like to get that out there in the open early. I belong to the Chicago Pinball League. It was started in 98 or 99 by some prominent names in the pinball community, some game designers and some other folks. Again, long story, but I was able to get a hold of Roger Sharp. He is a legend in and of himself in the pinball world. He's the reason why pinball is legal to play in New York, Chicago, and LA. It used to be illegal, and he proved that it was a game of skill, not a game of chance, so therefore no longer considered a gambling machine. But I got a hold of him, and he put me in touch with his sons, who are phenomenal pinball players, both in the top 10 in the world. And they invited me and my friend Chris to come out and join the league, and we are 32 members strong. And we also have a wait list, and we play at different people's basically collections. People have machines in their basement. You have to have a minimum of 8 games to host, and we go to the different basements and family rooms that have the machines, and we also compete. And we run 6 months regular season, and then from January to June, and then in July we have our finals. So
cool. What have you thought so far of we've had 2 tournaments here at the Galloping Ghost Arcade so far for pinball. We're actually getting ready to announce our 3rd one that'll be coming up on, what did we say, November 10th? Yes, November 10th will be our 3rd pinball tournament. What did you guys think of the pinball tournaments, and what have you heard other people say about them?
The second one that we had some interactive, I forgot what those things are called, the little QR codes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we had the QR codes, and that was kind of nice. I know some of the players were able to scan using their smartphones, and were able to get live updates as we were entering the scores.
Yes,
What's
that's the
website that you use?
Arcade.com, AURCADE. They handle all of our high scores and world record tracking here at the arcade. They have a really nice tournament system, and you can basically have pretty much live scoring updates as you go, and like you said, with the QR code and stuff, you can track it as it's happening. And
yeah, I know a lot of the players were kind of liking that, or as they were waiting in line, they were kind of seeing where they needed to be, or after they were finished, they were kind of monitoring their phones, or they come back in the arcade and watch the scores, you know, live as we were putting them into the computer there.
Yeah.
You can see the their position change and whatnot, and yeah, they really like that. They really like the format. They like the games that were set up, and it was a really good turnout.
Our most pinball tournaments, like we had a one and done tournament. Is that how most pinball? Like, what are the normal rules for a lot of places pinball tournaments?
Well, I'm probably the most experienced with that. PAPA.org, PAPA.org, is the World Pinball, the Professional Amateur Pinball Association. It's held every year in August, and it's in a suburb of Pittsburgh. It's a lot of fun, but it's very, very serious competition. Most competitions that we run into at Expo, Kalamazoo, Midwest Gaming Classic up in Milwaukee, the contest will run for several days. Even some of the minor ones at GameWorks will start Friday, Saturday, and end up on Sunday. And so the idea is you have several days to qualify. You can purchase multiple attempts. So that's a little bit different than what we do. We do the one and done. Now, I like the one and done because you get in and get out. You're not here all night and coming back the next day and then coming back the third day to have the finals. And it kind of evens things out because you can still have a really high level player or two from the Chicago Pinball Mafia show up, but you can still compete against them. Pinball is, well, it depends on who you talk to and it depends on their skill level, but pinball is at least 25% random element, and so even a novice can still compete against a world-class player and still beat them once in a while. There is that random element. And the other nice thing is that even if you're playing against somebody who's just slaughtering you, if you watch them play, and most people don't mind that you do watch them play, you learn a lot. So it is a skill that you can learn, get better at, and as you watch different players do different things, it's pretty neat. But to answer your question, the comparison is that this is a one and done. I like the format. And there are enough multiple day competitions around the country that these are kind of a nice breath of fresh air. I know I have a hard time coming 3 days in a row with family obligations and everything, and then hanging out, like being here first thing on a Sunday morning for a pinball shootout. It's complicated, and I usually don't qualify for them anyway. So you're watching the scoreboards Saturday night, and then that's it, you're done. So.
Yeah, usually with the scoring and being able to input the score right away on the computer, we generally know if the tournament starts here at 7, by 10:30 we know who the winners are. And again, there's two classes, there's expert and there's novice, and it's kind of on an honor system. Obviously, if you're in a league or you have pinball machines at home or whatnot, you'd be in the expert division, and if you just play pinball for fun, or you've never seen one, or you just want to play, then you would be in the novice group. So it does make it pretty fair for everyone to kind of come out and enjoy it and have fun.
With so many of our regulars here, like they've been going over and playing in our expansion more and more, have you seen any of our regulars to be the next up-and-coming pinball wizard, or no? Nobody's there yet.
I've not done enough observation.
No.
I can't really say that I've been over here on Wednesdays and Thursdays and been able to observe that, but.
Well, let's put it to you this way: I haven't seen too many new high scores up on the game, so.
No, they've been James White and Duke Dang and Rocco
games?
and Walters. They're all working on them.
They're all working on them.
Yeah, I'd have to watch them play, but I will say that there were some good people that did show up at the competitions that I got a chance to observe, and some of them I know were regulars that just wanted to check it out, or they were here anyway. So they, entered the competition to see how well they did, and I think there was a few of the younger kids who did really well on this last one that we had.
Yeah.
Guy, I don't think he was 20 years old. He kind of blew all the novices away. So, yeah, I don't recall his name, but he and his friend were here and saw some pretty good games on him.
Yeah, we did see some really good games, really good scores during the last tournament. Black Knight really got a really good score going on it. There's some really close competition on that game. I think there's some pretty close competition on Pinbot, and hopefully for this tournament coming up, we can get Space Invaders involved in some way. and Space Invaders is a wide body, a super wide body, I guess. And so that's definitely an interesting game to play. It's definitely fun.
Yeah, very, very glad we picked that one up. One of the other things you had mentioned was the Midwest Gaming Classic, which you were at this last year.
Yeah, I've tried to go every year that they've had it. It's at a good time of year for me.
Can you tell us why you were there?
This past.
Yeah.
Well, I'm also involved with a group of guys called Whiz Bang Pinball.
Yes.
For those in the know, it's Dennis Norman and Greg Freres and Mark Wenna, who their main claim to fame is the Elvira pinball game called Scared Stiff. Dennis and Greg have been together for decades now, starting at Bally and then moving over to Williams. So Greg's a phenomenal artist. Dennis is a great pinball designer. Games like Whitewater, Scared Stiff, Elvira and the Party Monsters.
Pirates of the Caribbean.
Pirates of the Caribbean, which is one of the best-selling Stern pinballs, if not the best-selling Stern game to date. And just an all-around great bunch of guys. And I'm sort of the fourth wheel in the three-wheel vehicle, but I do tech and repairs, and I got them going with their first electromechanical game. They brought it to my house in a fall afternoon, and we got it running in my backyard. And their ideas were kind of born after getting that machine going. And then Mark joined back up with them again after Expo that year. And it's just been a great experience hanging out with those guys, learning about pinball design and marketing, and seeing a game from nothing to box of parts to finished game, and it's been a lot of fun.
So what's the name of the game?
Yeah, what's the name of it?
The name of the game is Whoa Nelly, Big Juicy Melons, and Dennis and Greg
What's the theme?
Dennis and Greg are kind of famous for their double entendre. As you can imagine, with having two Elvira games under their belts, she's quite the queen of double entendre. And Whoa Nelly, Big Juicy Melons, I suppose probably doesn't need a whole lot more explanation than that. Their main inspiration is not only nose art of the 1940s World War II aircraft and pinup girls in the 1950s, but the real inspiration is the fruit crate labels of the 1930s and 40s that had a lot of double entendre and airbrushed females and pictures of fruit and suggestive themes, which you think grandma and grandpa who don't approve. If you ever see some of their art packages, they were buying fruit and fruit crates that would make some people blush. But it's a really fun theme. It's just again
It was really cool. I had a
it's
chance to play it there, and it was really fun.
It's not just a gorgeous looking game, but it's a lot of fun to play.
Yeah.
Always draws a crowd, and this year they even managed to find a friend of a friend who looked like Melanie, the main character, and she was there promoting the game. And I have to say, Pretty Girl at a pinball video game convention was a little intimidating for a lot of folks, so that was also kind of fun to observe. But I've had a blast hanging out with those guys and enjoy working for them. I've taken Greg up there. He's helped out there too, just screwing posts and plastics to the play field and wiring and soldering and putting it all together and making it happen. It's really cool to see the whole process.
Yeah, we were there. Well, I was there and Ken was there, but the whole team was there. The first night when we got it all together, the newer game with the play field and everything, and it all lit up and it all played, was just one of the greatest moments, at least for me, because I got to see Greg Frere's face just light up when he saw his first game or playfield lit up after 10 or so years. It was 1999, I think, was his last pinball playfield that he did. And
Yeah.
there it was right in front of us, and there was Dennis, there was Greg, and then everyone else who helped out. And
You guys from Minnesota came down, and Greg and I were there, and a friend of mine from St. Louis comes up every now and then.
yeah, it was
so
a great night that night to get it all together and put together and working.
It'd be really cool to have one of those here eventually.
Yeah, it would be. I don't have those kind of funds to afford the game. That's the irony.
Yes, if
Story of my life.
these games, there's only 4 games made, and I believe 3 are sold. And
Fourth one may be sold, so I don't want to say one way or the other
okay,
on any of that. So,
but they are custom-made games, and they are definitely more money than an average pinball machine. Which right now, if you wanted to buy a new one out of the box, it's between $5,500 and $6,000, and this one's more.
Yeah, that's all we're going to say about that.
So if you want to have, the people listening, if you want Doc to get a big juicy melons, you're going to have to show up more often, and he'll be able to.
Yeah, right now we have our pinball expansion open on Wednesdays and Thursdays from 5 p.m. to 11 p.m. and then on Saturday from 11 p.m. until 2 a.m. And then usually if somebody calls and requests it, we try to have it open for them if at all possible. It's in our expansion, so it's outside of the building, so it's we have to be staffed for it, obviously. But definitely a lot of people always asking for pinball ever since we opened. If you guys could choose our next pinball game, if you had one game to pick, what would it be?
Only one, huh?
Only one.
I would have to say either Simpsons Pinball Party or Lord of the Rings. Both of those just have a great theme and a great gameplay.
Yeah.
Boy, it would be hard to limit it to just one. Stern Spider-Man is a phenomenal game. The new X-Men, I don't have a lot of plays on it, but I have been at Brixie's and I have played it. It is a fun, fast-playing game. It's currently on the line right now. That would be the one that if you're going to buy one, that would be the one that's available.
Man, for me, I think I'd have to go a little bit more old school. My 2 favorite games are Firepower. That's from 1979, and I'd have to say Black Knight 2000 from, I believe that's 89-ish, and those would be my picks.
Yeah.
Non-DMD games, and Black Knight 2000 has some great 80s pinball rock tunes going for it, and definitely a great game.
And probably another plug for Addams Family. That's another great
Addams Family.
game.
A lot of people ask for Addams Family. And we've been kicking around, we missed out on a Creature from the Black Lagoon not too long ago, and that's
I'm
one.
okay with that though.
Yeah.
It's a fun game. It's a great looking game, but it is brutal. It's hard to play that game very well, at least for me anyway. But fun game though. It would have been a great addition to if you would have got it. But yeah, anything, any of the games from the Williams era, 1990 through 99, anything along those lines. Addams Family, Whitewater, Scared Stiff,
Monster Bash.
And we were
Theater Magic, any one of those.
Theater Magic. A lot of people ask for as well. That's another highly requested one. I've been thinking about possibly choosing a Stern game, if only to talk with the people at Stern and hopefully open some more lines of communication and maybe get this place as a test location. Hopefully at some point.
I hope that works out.
Yeah, that would be great. That would be awesome. What are your thoughts of pinball here at the Galloping Ghost Arcade, and how do you think we can improve it and make it better and get more people playing. And like right now, we track a lot of high scores and stuff, and like that's always been such a big draw. And obviously, like tournaments help. But is there anything else that you guys think that we could do? Do we need a pinball league of our own to take on the mafia and?
Careful what you wish for.
Yeah.
Team GGA pinball.
Yeah, that would
Should-
be fun.
Yeah?
That would be fun,
That would
yeah.
be a lot of fun. I haven't really brought this up with you, and I haven't brought it up with my league guys, but I would love to host league here
Yeah?
one night. I don't know. We might need to get one more machine. I might have to bring one of mine over, but you know, that would be a lot of fun for me.
Yeah.
To have league guys here, mostly because a lot of them are like me. They were into video games either before or after getting into pinball. So this is a fun place just to come hang out. And I know a lot of them have been here and taken the tour, and so we'll chat about that. Our league starts in January, so if that happens, I'll be talking to you about that at some point.
Cool.
I would love to see a machine out on the main floor. I know we've talked about that and bounced that back and forth.
Yeah, that's the main concern. We get people that ask that all the time is why is the pinball over in the expansion? And it's a few different reasons. I like to have everything kind of grouped together for whatever reason, whatever crazy things that go on through my head that makes me group things together like I do. Also, we need to be a little more vigilant in making sure people aren't being too rough on the machines, because that's always a concern. Is they do go down, and some people don't realize how hard they're playing on them and stuff. So,
One of the problems with pinballs is that they have a fairly high resale value. So you definitely don't want to trash one to the point of where you can throw it in the dumpster. So
for sure.
You know, preserving it is one of the reasons why I haven't pushed too hard about getting a machine over here. I do respect where that's coming from, absolutely, because they are expensive, and they're not getting any cheaper.
No, they definitely hold their value. Like you see it with the games, the video game end of it, like stuff does go down depending on how long ago it came out. Like the classics always hold their value, but especially the newer stuff goes down in price so quick, and it's just different for pinball. I'm a little more protective also just because I don't fix many problems beyond like getting the misshot ball out of wherever it's wedged into or something stuck, or I leave that for you guys. Sure. I am busy enough with the 350 video machines, so not having to worry about and learn pinball is fine by me.
Yeah, Ken and I are generally here on Mondays, and we do any kind of maintenance and or just chopping or cleaning, making sure the games are working okay.
And they always do. They always usually look really nice, and I hope people that do play on them really appreciate all the effort that you guys put into. And I don't even think we thank you guys enough as much as we should for all the hard work you guys put in making our pinball machines play as nice as they do.
I'm just happy you guys have them.
Yeah, it is very very good to have the pinball machines here. They are definitely they are part of the arcade experience. If you just had video games, pinballs are always part of the arcade experience
For sure,
in some
for
way, and you definitely need those for the full experience.
Well, and it is definitely something we will be expanding on as we continue to grow. Not sure what we're going to get next, but definitely more coming, as with everything here. But I guess that's pretty much all I have to cover on this. Do you guys have anything you want to add or go over? Or?
Not really. Just go play pinball. Chicago has a fair number of places to play around here. Not just Brookfield. Brookfield probably has the most easily accessible for those over 21 anyway. But there are bars in Chicago, there are bars in the suburbs, and there are good places to play, and I just encourage to play.
Actually, there is one more thing I will bring up, is that there are so many of the developers and people that have worked on games that are around here, and we recently were honored to have Steve Ritchie out here, which we do want to thank him again for coming out. And are there any other pinball, like there's so many people that talk about all the Midway creators and those guys over the years, like are there any other main pinball people that have worked on games that are notable that are in the area that we should try to get out to one of our next events?
George Gomez.
George Gomez?
Yeah.
He did Tron, the video game, the original video game.
And Spy Hunter in Satan's Hollow too.
Right.
So I've been trying to get him to come out here for about a year, but he is extremely busy. He's the project manager at Stern now.
Yeah.
And putting out great games, but I understand the whole busyness thing.
Well, without
I
question.
think he lives in the city, so it's Stern's not far, but when you're getting out of work at 9 o'clock at night or later, and then you got to go home to the city, I get why it's hard to get out here.
Let's not forget Larry DeMar.
Larry DeMar.
He's been here quite
Yeah,
a
again,
quite a bit.
he's been very generous to our arcade here, and we always welcome him whenever he's around, and hope he shows up more often too. We haven't talked to Larry in a while.
Larry did a few video games. Doc could probably comment on some of the video games that he's done, and he's also done some pinball machines.
Do you know offhand what pins he's worked on, or
Twilight Zone.
Twilight Zone?
Adam's Family.
Black Knight.
He's got credits on a lot of machines.
Yeah.
Funhouse. I'm trying to think of the games that are here.
Yeah, definitely Twilight Zone and possibly Funhouse. But he also was instrumental in coming up with a lot of the diagnostics that we use. So when a switch goes bad, something happens, we try to figure out what's happening. A lot of the menus and the diagnostics and things, he was really a pioneer of making that happen. And it's really, in my opinion, what set Williams apart. Wasn't just the themes and the game designers that they came up with, but a lot of the periphery stuff, like how they know games are susceptible to everything, like copy machines, automobiles. Something's going to wear out at some point, and what can we put in the machines to make the techs that work on them, fix them, and get them back out and earning money again. He and a few other guys like Eugene Jarvis and other people were just instrumental in making that happen. So
Eugene's another one that hopefully he'll come out.
Yeah, Larry worked on, I believe, Defender.
Yep.
Joust.
Robotron.
Robotron.
Yeah.
And if that's kind of...
It's a pretty good lineup right there.
Well, yeah, that's a great lineup. And it never dawned on me until I started playing Firepower, but that pinball machine is from '79, right when those video games were coming out, and they share a lot of the same sounds.
Yeah.
So a lot of the same sounds around Robotron and Defender.
And so many of the pinball sound effects, like, and especially looking at like Twilight Zone and me personally, like Funhouse, like all the sayings that Rudy would have, which is actually interesting that a lot for the video game end, the voice of Rudy was actually Ed Boon, which a lot of people don't know that, which being such an a Mortal Kombat heavy scene here at the arcade, that's always a great little fact to throw out there. Yeah.
Definitely a lot of crossover between the video and pinball guys, and they're still in the area. And Steve Ritchie, he came by, he does some of the voices and characters in Mortal Kombat,
Yeah, he was the voice of Shao Kahn,
and he designs pinball machines.
Mutoid Man, I believe. So, yeah, it's hopefully we can get him out here for our next event,
November 10th.
November 10th.
But all the greats are still around, still in the area. If you take a 70, 80 mile radius, Pat Lawler is up north, far northwest. Dennis and Greg are still around. Mark Wennes up in near north, and so trying to think of all the other greats who are associated with pinball. Bohr,
Yeah.
Stern, and
Generally, you can meet all those people again at the Chicago Pinball Expo. That'll be in less than a month, the weekend of the 20th. They're generally there either giving seminars or just there hanging out, and it's kind of nice. You can go right up to them and talk to them. And
Might have to go do some networking.
there you go.
One of the other things I did want to cover is the backglass artwork. One of the last shows we went to, Chris was with us, and I remember he was just buying backglass artwork left and right for so many different games. I think he picked up Guns N' Roses and the Playboy one and so many really cool pieces of artwork. Do you guys have any favorites of backglass?
I can tell you what game that I don't like, backglass, Flash.
I would have to not disagree with that.
Yeah, that's a whole another 2-hour show, actually. Pinball has a lot of different facets to it. I suppose it's like the antique car groups, or anything that's collectible. You have playability, you have themes, that are
Yeah,
desirable, and sometimes it's a commercially licensed theme like Lord of the Rings or Twilight Zone that's popular, or sometimes it's Funhouse, completely original theme, or Medieval Madness. There's the beauty of it. And I have to say what popped into my mind with backglass art. Greg's becoming a fast favorite of mine, just with being associated with him and the Woe Nelly project. But the one backglass that just blows me away is Tales of the Arabian Nights. That whole game is just gorgeous, but the backglass is unbelievable.
For me, I think I would have to go with Fathom. That's another Greg
That's a great
backglass. That game's from the late 70s, I believe, maybe even 1980, and that backglass fits into the theme of the game, so well. And I kind of even like Centaur. Centaur's a black and white or black, white, and silver, artwork, but it's kind of
It's real dark goth, Mad Max kind of looking thing. Guy's got a big ring in his nose, and the
He's a centaur. He's a half human or whatever, and a motorcycle.
yeah, it's just real dark, but it's great and it fits the theme, and the pinball's a lot of fun. But I like Centaur for the playability
Yeah.
over the artwork.
Yeah, that's a great
The
game
artwork
too.
isn't something you can have at Grandma's house, but man, the playability on that game is just phenomenal.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of different levels
It is.
associated with that.
That is really interesting. Like me personally, I'm a huge Twilight Zone fan. It was when we were fortunate enough to get that machine, I was so excited about it, and I still listed as my favorite of that and Funhouse tied for being the favorites of the machines that we have. But I play Pinbot probably the most, just because it's the one I'm best at. So but even though I play that the most, and I think that's the funnest to play, I still like Twilight Zone and Funhouse more, just for theme and artwork and interesting though.
Yeah, that you ask 100 people, you're going to get 100 different opinions.
Yeah.
on that.
For sure,
So,
for sure.
I like some of the early art on the 70s machines. The Christian Marche and Roy Parker, even earlier than that. Those glasses that were true, that had to be laid up and silkscreened with ink and then sealed, and having to darken areas where you want the light to shine through, and where you don't want the light to shine through, and lighten the areas where you do want the light to shine through, and where the flashers, and there's just some pretty amazing art packages out there, and the art is definitely. People don't really, the commercial machines are supposed to eat quarters and dollar bills. That's what they're designed for, but they're so gorgeous. The new X-Men game is unbelievably gorgeous. The side art, because the cabinets are are painted as well.
Yeah, well,
they're unbelievable.
Just to kind of go over what X-Men artwork is, it's not the movies, it's comic book artwork. And the playfield's all comic book artwork, the sides, the back glass, everything has hand-drawn comic book artwork on it, and it doesn't have anything to do with the movies whatsoever. And it's a very fun game to play. The rules are very interesting.
But it's just gorgeous, just walking
Yeah.
up to it before
Yeah.
you put your money into it. It's just, it's a sight to behold. And so that's what draws me in too. I just enjoy the colors. I enjoy the different variations on it. And, you know, it is what it is. Some people don't like certain things. Some people like other things. Art's so subjective, so it's a hard question to answer.
Is there a machine out there that you've shied away from playing because of the artwork, even though it might be a fun game? Like, you guys keep telling me Flash is super fun, and I just can't get into it with that guy looking at me like that.
Flash is a fun game. Again, it's a good, entry-level game.
The problem for me is that, I'm not looking at the back glass when I'm playing. I don't look at the DMD, I don't look at the back glass, I don't look at the art package, I look at what's happening on the play field because I'm trying to keep the ball in play. And so, for me, maybe if I'm playing in multiplayer games, which in my opinion is the best way to play, I enjoy playing with other people, then you'll notice certain things. Like on Pinball, at certain times when his eyes light up, it's like he's a spaceship in the back and you can see the people in the spaceship. So there's times where like his eyes light up and you can see stuff going on back there. So when you pick up little things like that, that's
I don't even know if I've ever noticed that.
his fingers are flippers. There's all kinds of stuff back there that's going on in Pinball that is real subtle. You may not pick up here and there. So yeah, it depends. It depends. I have Fishtails. Not everybody likes that game, but one of the interesting aspects about that game is that the cabinet art, which was originally red, fades so bad that it actually goes to yellow. So even the price tag on that will depend on the varying shades of yellow or orange that the cabinet decals are. So even things that have nothing to do with the actual artwork, it's the color shift or the fade or this or that determines price or desirability or anything else along those lines. So yeah, that's a hard question. Like I said, that's another 2-hour show and we still wouldn't get anywhere with it.
Yeah, 8-Ball Deluxe with the Marble Man on the back glass is probably not, from the YMCA Village People days, that's probably not.
Great game though.
Very fun game.
I can't let the urban cowboys of the 1970s deter me from playing that game. I love that game.
Yeah, it's a fun game, but yeah, the back glass, if you were just walking up, probably not something that you'd want to play.
Yeah, cigarettes depicted on, machines that children might play are kind of frowned upon these days. Not
Very
so
true.
much in the mid-70s though.
It's a different time.
Yeah.
One last thing, I guess, would you want to, I know we've mentioned pretty much all the machines that we have, but there's a lot of firsts in our, like Gorgar being the first game with speech.
Right.
Would you want to kind of go over what some of the uniqueness to the machines that we have?
Yeah, Flash is the first game that actually flashes, that has basically flash circuitry and flash bulbs on it. Before then, the lights would either just blink on and off at one intensity, and that would be it, or they'd just be stationary. Then Gorgar.
It sounds kind of silly, like it's just a flash lamp. Now we have just like everything. My iPhone has more of a flash on it than that machine does. But at the time, that was a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was, it sounds kind of minuscule by today's standards, but that was a big deal back then.
Oh, for
and
sure.
It's still a really
It's
fun
got to
game
start
play.
somewhere, and
Right.
that's.
And again, these were designed to attract people to come up and drop quarters in. You know, back then you go into an arcade and there'd be a row of 10 pinballs sitting there, and you know, which game is going to try to attract you to put, you know, to give me your money type of thing. And Flash had the flash lamps. Then we have Gorgar, which was the first speaking pinball machine. After Gorgar, we have the Black Knight, which was the first two-level play field.
It might have also been the first with magnets on it. MagnaSave, that was a unique feature. There's 4 flipper buttons on Black Knight, 2 to actuate the flippers, and then when you have them lit, there's magnets. So if your ball is heading out the out lane, you can hit the other flipper button and activate the magnet, and it will actually suck your ball out of the out lane and align it so that it hits the in lane, which is phenomenal when you need it. So
yeah, that game is definitely very innovative. Another Steve Ritchie game. Flash is a Steve Ritchie game. And I think that's about it for first.
Was Funhouse the first to have the left plunger?
Maybe.
Possibly, yeah. I'm not sure on that.
Well, just Rudy's pretty unique too. That was also.
Yeah, again, that was one of the earlier
Pretty
games that
innovative,
had what people in the pinball industry call toys. Any kind of interactive device that's on the play field that either interacts with the ball, or if you haven't seen what Funhouse is, it's basically one of those talking dummy heads on the play field, and basically he talks at you and says bad things to you, and you have to whack him in the mouth to, you basically get, you know, bonus points for whacking him in the mouth as he's talking to you. So, you know, again, it's a toy that moves and you can interact with it, you know, on the play field instead of just hitting a target or, you know, a ramp or whatnot. And I think a lot of the new games try to at least have, you know, at least one sort of toy on them.
And what are your guys' thoughts on pinball mods? I know Twilight Zone had a lot of mods that they put out.
Well, I threw the gumballs in. Your Twilight Zone has the gumballs.
Yeah.
So that's the cheapest, easiest one to do. You know, some people go crazy on it. Some people like it. Some people don't. Again, that kind of goes with the art package. I like a lot of the Twilight Zone mods. I especially like the slot machine. As the ball rolls through, the little slot machine reels go off.
Yeah.
And they spin around, and that's pretty neat. But you know, I'm a player, so I like to go up to the machines, and art packages are great, and some machines look better than others, but I want a game that plays well. To me, that's the most important. So
Yeah.
I think one of the mods in the last couple of years that actually Stern kind of took notice was LED lighting. People kind of came up, they started using these different color LED lights to kind of change maybe the theme of the way that the game looked, or put certain colors in certain areas and whatnot, you know, either under inserts or on the game, and just for the longevity of the bulb life too, you know, increases, and people started doing that. Companies started selling the bulbs, and Stern took notice, and on a lot of their limited edition games, they come standard with LED type bulbs.
Cool. Well, yeah, we have to. I don't know if we'll be doing mods on ours anytime soon, but it's those Twilight Zone ones. Some of those really had me thinking about picking some of those up.
they can be pricey.
They are.
But
they are.
they look neat. I like the player piano mod. It just kind of completes that otherwise kind of dull area. Your clock gets a little flaky the longer it's on. It's I don't know if it's got an open, but it seems like temperature-wise it's affected by temperature. The clock will work. It won't work. They have some LED mods for the clock. I don't know. I mean, it's if you pick up a deal, I'd say go for it. But some people can get kind of crazy and really deck these things out to the point where you can't really tell if the pinball machine's there anymore.
Yeah.
So what was it? Lord of the Rings. Somebody took like all of the characters from Lord of the Rings, you know, all 50,000 of them or whatever, you know, put them everywhere. So and the ones normally come with, you know, Frodo and Sam and, you know, all the 4 hobbits and and stuff stashed around. Well, they took everybody and they put everybody all over it. So, you know, to each his own. You know, it's great if you want to do that and you enjoy it. But to me, I'm just trying to keep the ball in play.
We can definitely mount up your Twilight Zone.
I will definitely keep that in
The
mind.
rocket ship one's pretty cool. The one that lights up the tail and shoots the
There's
ball.
so many of them.
Yeah,
I was
there's a
looking
lot.
on eBay.
There's a lot.
Buy them,
But-
we'll put them in for you. That's what we do.
Very cool. Is there any way like people can get in touch with you guys, or just see at the arcade?
No, see us at the arcade.
It's
I'm
best
not,
way.
I'm not taking any additional.
I know
repair
there's.
works right now.
I have a list of people that want to speak with you about repairing their pinball machines.
Yeah.
Well, what we could offer, and I haven't brought it up to Ken yet, but Doc has been pretty gracious at giving a video game 101 type of repair course on boards and whatnot, and potentially one night here at the arcade, Ken and I can get together and just go over some, basics,
That'd be awesome.
for, your basic pinball repair and
I think people would even playing. I think people would love to talk with you guys and watch you play some games, and really, like I said, there's so many people they come here specifically for the video game end of it and haven't had the same exposure to pinball, and for them it still is just batting the ball around until it drains and then they walk away, come back here. But once you learn the subtleties and some of the how to play better and what you're doing in the particular games, a lot of people really get into it. And learning from two pros like you guys, I think they would be
Yeah, us pros.
yeah, sure. Oh yeah, I'm sure we can organize something, one night.
We can show you guys a lot of tricks, but we can also show you what not to do.
Yeah, we can get it. Again, that's a whole other podcast on
For sure.
on ball control and whatnot. But yeah, we can definitely go over some tips. I know one thing, if you guys are into Xbox or PlayStation or whatnot, they have those Williams games. Again, they're not the same as a real pinball machine. However, they do. I know they have a Funhouse game on there, and you can learn the rules. You can kind of play that, kind of flip it around, and then start learning what shots that you need to shoot for and when. Come into the arcade and, practice for real.
see if you can do it on an actual machine.
Yeah, do it on an actual machine. But yeah, that kind of gets you into the rules, and that's what, at least for me, that's what sucked me in. You're just not batting a ball around. There are rules and things that you want to do with the ball, and that's what makes it challenging and fun.
Yeah, I can't knock video pinball either. For a while, I have not been able to make it to Papa for the last 3 years, but it has to do with my kids' vacation schedule, mostly. But for a while, I was getting into more serious competition, and coming into it so late, there's guys who grew up with seeing Twilight Zone on location and Adam's Family on location. I didn't have that luxury on a lot of games, so video pinball is nice because if you need to learn the rules, you need to see what shots do that just to get better and to see what works, what doesn't. Video pinball is great for that. It really emulates the tables really well, and ball physics still not the same as a real pinball machine, but not everybody has access to every type of pinball machine, and so or being able to be fortunate enough to have 3 pinball shows throughout the year that are within driving distance of Chicago. It's a good way to get an overview on items, or if it's something that if you're into The Simpsons and you say, hey, I really like The Simpsons, that's my thing. There's 2 different pinball machines that had Simpsons theme. You might want to see which one fits your taste, or both of them, or maybe you don't want to do that, maybe that's not your thing, but at least you have an idea of what works, what doesn't. So.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I think that just about wraps it up. Unless you guys thought of anything else, or
Yeah, I want to talk about the machines I absolutely hate. I think we need to end
okay,
on
all
that.
right.
All right, I have two, and I want to. I asked the question
What-
not just to not just to slam these two machines, but I want to see what Greg's response is. So I'll go first, give him some time to think. The two games that I absolutely hate are Hook.
And why?
It's that rooster ram. It's just the one thing that you have to do is over and over and over, and every time you hit that ram, a rooster over and over and over.
Yeah.
Great movie, good looking pin, really good looking pin, but man, that rooster ram just like kills it for me. And then maybe this is a good game, but the one that I played on might have been set for super easy, but the one game that I absolutely also hate is Waterworld. Not the most loved film out there, and then they made a pinball out of it.
Certainly not.
Neat thing. There's a ship, the tanker that flips and changes the ball thing, but for some reason I just played a game that I had to walk away from. I just couldn't drain the ball, and when I did drain the ball, it would say, ball saved, and give it back to me. And something was either broken on it, but it was just a really horrible game.
Yeah.
Anyway, those are my two games that I absolutely hate. You have to have some games to hate, otherwise, people think you just a cheap date or whatever. But I want to now hear what Greg has to say. What games he absolutely hates.
Yeah, I'm not as down as you are.
I thought I was doing pretty good because I like a lot of games that people don't care for. So
Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
If you had to wipe one pinball machine off the face of the earth, what are you getting rid of?
Oh,
As
man.
if it never existed.
Oh boy, there's so many games that I haven't played, so I can't really.
Well, of what you've played.
Man.
I've stumped Greg.
Yeah, I really can't think of one. I mean, I can, appreciate pretty much all the games that I've played, for what they are. I mean, I'm not great at.
If you were doing the book of where you had to put them in order of best to worst, there has to be a worst. What
Yeah,
was
I
your?
don't know, I haven't really thought about it that way. I've never really kind of came up with like, man, I wish this game was gone. Yeah, I can't really come up with one.
Well, we'll have to say that for next time.
I guess so.
We'll end on that.
What's your favorite game of the ones we have?
Well, I have to say Twilight Zone. Again, it was the game in this building in 2004 that got me completely hooked. If you look up the rule set for Twilight Zone and you print it out, it's over 40 pages of rules on what to do and why and at certain times. And to me, that is.
I believe that
like,
was a Twilight Zone episode of having to read the rules.
Yeah. Well, that's how bad I got the bug bit. I just memorized the rules on that, and then I haven't looked back since. But I still love playing it. Twilight Zone and Pinball are probably the two that I
Here
always
too.
flip on.
And we bought your pinball.
And that was my Pinball originally, yeah.
Greg, your favorite game that we have here?
I gravitate towards the older ones. I'd probably have to say Flash or Gorgar.
All right, and now, on the opposite spectrum, what is the one that you would not play here?
Man, the one that I like playing, if I had earplugs, would be Black Knight.
It's funny how
Although,
sound. It's funny how sound like
I take that back, and I'll say that. A
And
game
Black
that
Knight
could
is
be-
your favorite now.
Well, no, I'll just say a game that could be wiped off the earth and just put on Ogden Avenue and run over by a semi would probably be Millionaire.
Really?
I would have to
Get a job.
I would not. Yeah, the game that taunts you to get a job. In this down economy, it's a little rude, but yeah. That's
If you
probably
had
the
that
least
mustache,
game-
you could be saying those things to people too.
Yeah, that's the game that I turn on the least when I'm over here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do like Black Knight. It's a great game. Some of the sounds on there kind of are like nails on a chalkboard. But yeah, definitely Millionaire. Put it on Ogden and let let it semi-have at it.
That's one of our guys' favorite. Brandon here, I believe that's his favorite of the pinball machines.
It is a challenge to keep it going. So sometimes when you have a simple game, and I say this from my experience of having Star Pool, which is a Williams 1972, and no, 73, 74, and then Bally Champ, which is a 72. Those games are really basic. You kind of have to try little games with yourself to say that it's not just that I'm going to try to do this, but I'm going to try to do this and this. So I'm going to try to roll the game over so that it gets, you know, the scores go to 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, or I'm going to try to get the max bonus on 3 in a row or something like that. And so you have to try to take a game that doesn't have a lot of depth and make it deeper than it is. Millionaire is kind of that same category. It's not really deep, but trying to keep the ball going kind of indefinitely is always a challenge with pinball.
Sure.
So that's sort of what when I play that game. But yeah, it's not my favorite. But I don't hate it. I don't want to see it run over by a semi. I'll drag it out to my basement before that. Let that happen. So it's not a bad game. It's not a good game.
But not the worst.
Not the worst.
Yeah, come on in and try it. See
not- Yeah.
see what you
Yeah.
guys think. You know,
Now we're going to have this huge millionaire following.
that could be. We'll have to add it to the tournament.
Just don't get a hook.
I don't think that fits with our theme.
Because I think I'll have to accidentally stick a screwdriver in the speaker panels if that happens.
I can almost guarantee you that we will never have that.
Good.
We shall see. More coming. More coming.
Trade a millionaire for a hook.
No,
No.
not going to happen. Almost anything else I might trade a millionaire for, but we'll have to see. But anyway, I'd like to thank you two guys for sitting down and talking pinball with us. Ken, Greg, thank you both. Definitely, again, always appreciate all your hard work and keeping our pins running. And I guess that wraps us up for tonight. It's Monday, what month is it? August? September? September 24th? It doesn't matter. Monday, September 24th. So thanks a lot for listening, everyone, and we'll talk to you all next week. Thanks.